We wish it to be understood that we are not putting forth the claim that Jesus, as the Christ, represented a plane or condition of life in his own realization that had not been brought forth to a greater or lesser degree by a great many seers and prophets of other times and peoples. We wish to emphasize his life because that life is the one you can understand more fully. The specific reference to his own life can have but one purpose and meaning, and that was the faith-inspiring fact that his life and experience was the living demonstration of his teachings. The speculative dogma of vicarious atonement, which has biased Christians' thought for centuries, cannot be charged to the author of the Sermon on the Mount or the parable of the prodigal son. The leaders of Christian thought have diverted the followers of Jesus and his teachings from their practical application and the study of the God power. They have taught them to look upon his teachings as the experiences of the apostles after his time, instead of teaching them that the law upon which those teachings were based was an exact science which could be understood and experienced in the lives of all. The Orientals have made the scientific phase of their religion the supreme object of their study and attainment. In this they have gone to the other extreme. In this way, both have consigned their religion to the realm of the miraculous and the supernatural. The one has become absorbed in the holy ethical, while the other has become absorbed in the scientific side only. Thus, both have shut out the spirituality. The monastic life of retirement, asceticism, and seclusion from the world, whether in Buddhistic or Christian monasteries, is neither a necessity, nor is it the true method of attaining spiritual enlightenment, nor the realization of the perfect life of wisdom and power as brought forth by Jesus. These monastic systems have been in existence for many thousands of years, yet they have in no wise accomplished as much for the uplift of the common people as did the teachings of Jesus in the few short years of his time here on earth. It is very well known that he embraced all their teachings, going through the initiations and studying the so-called sacred mysteries, the ritualistic forms and ceremonies, until he came to the teachings of Osiris. These were interpreted to him by a priest who had held himself aloof from all the ritualistic, monastic, and materialistic forms of worship. This priest was a follower of King Thoth, of the first dynasty of the Egyptian kings. When King Thoth declared Egypt an empire, he did it under the power of a dictator and usurper of the people's rights. Centuries before, these people had built up and maintained a glorious civilization of unity and brotherhood under the guidance and direction of Osiris and his followers. These people were the pure white race and were always known as the Israelites, of whom the Hebrew race is a division. Thoth ruled wisely and attempted to maintain Osirian teachings, but after his day, the dark and material concept crept in, as the Egyptian or dark hordes from the south, who had swept him into power, gained sway. The succeeding dynasties fell away from Osirian teachings, gradually took up the dark concept of the dark race, and finally practiced black magic entirely. Their kingdom soon fell, as all such kingdoms must fail. After Jesus had listened attentively to this priest and his teachings, he recognized their deep inner meaning. He also saw through the insight which he had received from Buddhistic teachings that there was a great similarity underlying the two. He then determined to go to India over the old caravan route maintained at that time. There he studied the Buddhistic teachings, which had been preserved with a reasonable degree of purity. He saw that in spite of the ritualistic forms and dogmas that had been imposed by man, religion had but one source, and that was the God within, whom he designated as his Father, and the Father of all. Then he threw all forms to the winds, as it were, and went directly to God, went straight to the heart of this loving attainment. He soon found that this did not take long years of weary plodding through dogmas, rituals, creeds, formulas, and initiations, which the priesthood were foisting upon the people in order to hold them in ignorance and therefore in subjection. He realized that for which he was seeking was right within himself. He knew that in order to be the Christ, he must declare that he was the Christ. Then, with pure motive, thought, word, and deed, he must live the life he sought in order to incorporate it within his physical body. Then, after perceiving this, he had the courage to go out and declare it to all the world. It did not matter from whom or where he got his realization. It was the work that counted. Not what someone else had done, but what he did that counted. The common people whose cause he sponsored heard him gladly. He did not borrow his precepts from India, Persia, or Egypt. Their teachings were but the outer that brought him to see his own godhead and the Christ, the representation of it that was in everyone, not in a few, but in all. Osiris was born in Atlantis more than 35,000 years ago. The chroniclers of his life, long after his time, called him a god because of his wonderful works. He was direct descendant of those of higher thought who had kept their concepts clear in the motherland of man. It was so of the great portion of all the mythological characters that have been brought down to us. Their works and characters have been distorted by repetition and translation of the stories concerning them. Their works and attainments were looked upon as supernatural by those who would not give the time and thought to go into the deeper meaning and find that they were divinely natural to man in his true dominion. The chroniclers deified Osiris. Then they began making images of him. These images only represented what he stood for at first. Then gradually the images became fixed in the mind. The ideal was forgotten, and the empty idol remained. Buddha was another who was deified by the chroniclers long after his time. Note the images of him that have been set up, with the result that the image is worshipped instead of the ideal. Again, the empty idol. It is the same with signs and symbols. The teaching that Buddha received came from the same source as did those of Osiris, but in a different way. The teachings that Buddha contacted came from the motherland direct to Burma, brought there by the Nakals. Osiris' teachings came direct to him, as his forefathers lived in the motherland, and when he was a young man he had gone to the motherland to study. After finishing his studies, he returned home, became the leader of the Atlanteans, and brought the people back to the worship of the God within, as they were gradually slipping back into the dark concept, influenced by the dark races about them. Moses was another leader whose followers and chroniclers deified him after his time. He was an Israelite and contacted the records of the Babylon Israelite, receiving his teachings from them. These records form a part of our Bible. What Moses saw and learned from these records was written to him in the exact form and words. The facts which he put down were badly distorted by translators. I could go on and recall many more. Jesus saw and contacted all their teachings, then, in his characteristic manner, went to the heart of all these. He went one step further than any of them did, by glorifying his body to the point where he could allow it to be crucified, yet he brought it forth in a triumphant resurrection. Studying the teachings of Osiris, Buddha, and Jesus, You will find many similarities. In fact, at times you will find the same words used. Yet did any of them copy? The teachings showed them the way from the outer to the inner. Then they must have dropped all teachings, all copying, and must have gone beyond it all. Had any of them just copied and studied what they saw and were taught, and then had not been able to see that all was from the God right within themselves, they would have been studying yet, and their lives and experiences would never have been recorded. They all went through the same experience in that their followers wanted to crown them kings of temporal kingdoms, but to this they would not listen, each expressing the same thought in almost the same words. My kingdom is not of the material, it is spiritual. With Osiris it went so far that the latter chroniclers placed him as an Egyptian king. Here the talk ended and we walked to the temple. Okay, this is me reading from the book called The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Book 2. And this is a book that I want to offer the people who listen to this. And I have both typed it up and have it in my Google Files and also read the entire book. You can have it both ways. You can get the playlist for it, or if you send me your email address, I can send you the book to read out of my Google document file. There are many answers to a lot of questions that we have, and a lot of it's pertinent today. There's a lot of talk in some of these books, and I say some because there are a series of 5 of them. And some talk in Book 3, I think it is about the formation of the planets, that the planets all came from the sun. Like as if the sun were the mother of all of the planets. And the one who's in the cradle orbit is the planet that is the youngest of the mother. I know it sounds funny to compare planets and suns as like there are mothers and fathers and grandmothers and that sort of thing, but yes, that is the way it is. The earth, a lot of people think, is not a dead thing. The earth is a living being that has feelings. And this needs to be recognized because today there are many people abusing earth in such ways that they are not recognizing what they are doing. That it's disastrous and that we must counter by knowing. We have to know these things so we can counter what the people who are doing to the earth are doing. Because knowing is a power. It talks about that a lot in these books, how knowing makes you a master because you know a thing. We've lived in ignorance for so long and thinking that we were very smart because we have intellectually climbed a big way up. We have all kinds of devices and electronic machinery that can do so many things, but that doesn't make us intelligent. It makes us informed, but not intelligent, with the kind of wisdom that you'll get from these books, which I hope that you will either send me a message, a comment, something. Let me know that you would like to read this book. And I will put the playlist for this book in the description bar. And then you can just click on it there and hear me read the entire book, if you would like. But if you would like to read it for yourself, I also have this in my Google document file, and I can send it to anyone that gives me their email address. Anyway, this is very interesting to read and consider, and I've always wondered why, personally, I had a feeling that Osiris was someone very important that I needed to listen to. And it turns out that Osiris was very close to God, just like Jesus was. But just like Jesus, the chroniclers of his life have distorted his teachings. So I am very glad to have this kind of information for myself, and I wish to give it out to all others who would like to have it also. And this is the Dove Lady, and over and out. Talk to you later.